Hello everyone, this is the Lawnmower Detective here, and as I promised, we're going to be going on a journey through basically putting my Kawasaki FR691V, which goes on my Icon, my Ariens IKON X52. We're going to be putting it back together. It's going to be a slow process, so bear with me. And with that being said, if you're new here, welcome. If you're a return visitor, hello again. And I look forward to taking this journey with you. Like I said, this is my first time completely rebuilding an engine, and it just happens to be one on my personal machine. So I'm going to go very slow doing this. So some of the things might be redundant to you. You may have seen them 1,000 times. But don't let that deter you. Hang in there, and we'll get through it and hopefully learn something together. Excuse me. Okay, I apologize for the sound in the background. That's a propane heater going on. It's 22 degrees outside currently, and it's now 49 degrees in here. This heater does a really good job. I might do a video on that some other time. But the first thing we're going to be doing is removing the camshaft so we can put new tappets in. So we're going to line the timing marks here, the large one on the camshaft itself, and then the timing gear here has a mark on the tooth. And you line those up so this can come out really easy. So we'll just slide this right out, set it aside. So to put these tappets in here, I know you probably can't see it, but there are 4 holes down here where these tappets go into. This face here rides on the camshaft lobe, and this one rides on the end of the push rod, which comes up into the head and moving your rocker arms, hence your valves and all that stuff. But to start out, we're going to put some assembly lube on here. I'm using the Permatex Ultra Slick. Kind of cold in here, so it might not come out, or it might be sealed. Yeah, see, don't be a dork like me, you gotta take that off. That's some good stuff there. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to put some assembly lube on here. I'll rub it around a little bit and put some right there on the end. And put it, sorry I put my head in your way. I'm going to put it right in the hole there. Now the lower ones might be a little harder to do. So let me grab some needle nose pliers. We'll get it in there. We'll get it in there, don't worry. Put some assembly lube on this one. My first time using that stuff, I tell you what, it's stickier than all get out. I like that. So we're just going to gently hold on to the edge of this tappet here so we can get it down in that other hole. And that's it. We'll go ahead and do the other one here, the third one. Got 4 of them in here, obviously, 2 for each cylinder. Doesn't take a rocket science to figure that one out. However, I'm not a rocket scientist, and if I'm able to figure it out, anybody can figure it out. Uh-oh. Bruce, I know what you mean by trying not to get in the camera's way, but it's kind of hard to do sometimes. Kind of hard to keep from getting in the camera's way. So I won't be hating on you. Here we go with the bottom one on this side. Just hold on to that gently. Don't put any marks in it or anything. Okay. That's all 4 of those in there. I'm going to put some assembly lube on the face of them. Put some more on the lobes whenever I go to put the cam back in, which is coming up next. Okay, before I put the cam in there, I'm going to show you, give you a better shot here. Hang on. Alright, I got you right down in there now. If you can see those tappets there that I just put in, give me something to point with. There's one there, there's one here, one there, and another one down there. See that sticky stuff? That stuff works good, man, I'm telling you. That Permatex assembly lube. And while I'm down here, I'll show you the timing mark. You should be able to see it right there on that tooth, that little dot. Okay, well let me grab the camshaft and we'll get that put back in. Okay, got the camshaft here. I'm going to put some assembly lube on these lobes. Can y'all see that? Yeah. Just going to put some assembly lube on these lobes here. Some down here on the base pin that goes down there in the bottom. I'll muck it all around here. Basically this stuff is sticky so it stays in place while you're putting it all back together. You can see the decompression on the bottom works well. Okay, so we're going to line up our timing marks that I showed you a second ago. And I'll give you a close-up here in a minute. It just drops right in. Maybe a little fiddling around with it, but okay, hang on. Okay, you guys can see those timing marks now. Get my hand in here. That's the one on the cam itself, the large one, and then the smaller one on the timing gear right there. They line up right together. And you can slide that thing right back in there, hopefully. Okay. Excuse me. Since this is my first time doing this, what you didn't see off camera here is I basically put the piston in the correct orientation, and I've marked it here. So, and then I put the ring compressor on there. And just like all the videos that I've watched on YouTube, you tighten it up, don't make it too tight, get your rings in the appropriate orientation, follow your manufacturer's specifications. I'll put a picture up here in a minute that shows you the orientation of the rings themselves and how to clock the gaps, your ring gaps on here, per the manufacturer's specifications. So we got the cam in, we got this piston in, and I'll go ahead and put the other piston in. You guys have seen that a million times on YouTube. So I'll get the other piston in, and I'll be back in 2 ticks, like Mick says. Okay, so as you can see, I've got both pistons in. So the next thing I'm going to be doing off camera is putting the connecting rods and the caps on. And there's not much room down in here, so you're not going to be able to see anything anyway. I'll bring you back when I get those on. Okay, that took a little bit because I was having a little bit of trouble with my torque wrench, but as you can see, these are the push rods, and these are the push rod caps and the push rod bolts. There's 2 sets of them, here and here. When you put these caps on, you have to make sure they're in the right orientation, because one edge of this here has a chamfer on it and the other one is just square. Same thing with this one. The chamfer on this one points up and the chamfer on that one points down. If you get confused, you can actually look at the end of this push rod here and you can see which orientation it needs to be, and you may just need to flip it over and then put your bolts back in. I torqued those down to 87 inch-pounds. So I'll put another photo of that, a still shot of that in there for you. Well, what we're going to be doing next is putting the sump cover back on and making sure everything is nice and tidy. I've got both of those shafts there. I got those lubed up with some assembly lube. I'm going to be using the Permatex Right Stuff. You put that in a caulking gun and you apply 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch bead around here. One thing I do recommend is that when you clean off the old RTV silicone, you make sure those grooves are cleaned out. Take a pick and clean those out. Same thing down here. And you also want to make sure that that oil pump gear is centered and not off center, or else you'll have a hard time getting it back on. Alright, so let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back. So I got the RTV on there. You only want to put it on one side. The manufacturer recommends that you just put it on one sealing surface, go around all the bolt holes, locator pins, things of that nature. And you want to have the sump on and all the bolts in and torqued within 5 minutes. So I got to get at it. I'll bring you back. Well, I got the sump on. I got all the bolts torqued to 22 pounds. They're supposed to be 21.3, but I went ahead and took it up to 22 pounds. One thing I want to add too is that everything underneath this cover where the reed valve is, that's all been replaced. That's a brand new cover there. And I'm going to be moving on to working on the cylinder heads and valves and such. First thing I've got to do is figure out how to get these valve seals off, the oil seals for the valve stems. So I'm going to be working on that next, and once I figure that out, I'll come back to you. Okay, I figured out how to get these off of here. You just have to be real careful that you don't mar up your mating surface here. But really all you gotta do is take a screwdriver and just pry them up from both sides. I'm trying to do this one-handed like some of the other folks on YouTube, but I don't know how well it's gonna go. No. I'll pry that off of there, but you can see how it moves up. There it goes. And it just comes off like that. I already got the other 3 off there, so I'm going to get these off of my screwdriver and I'll come back to you. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking these new valve seals. I got the part number for you. I'll put the still photo up there with the part number. And they go onto these little studs right here. You have to kind of hammer them down a little bit, both of them. And to do that, on the other set, I've already got those down. But what I've done is take this little 1/2 inch socket and place it down over the seal. You see that? And then I just tap it down with a light blow hammer here. So that's all that is to that. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit about lapping valves in. It's not too hard. This is my first time doing it, so I'm just going to show you my experience. I used this Permatex valve grinding compound, and you want to put a little bit on the edge of the valve itself. Just a little bit all the way around. And then you're going to put it where it goes. And then you're going to use your suction cup to stick on there and twist it back and forth. Not in circles, but just twist it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'll show you what it's supposed to look like. This one hasn't been lapped yet. As you can see, this is a fresh one. Now this one has been lapped in, and you can see the difference between the two. Do you see this nice gray line all the way around the valve here? And there's not one there. This one here has been lapped in, okay? And this one hasn't as of yet. So that's what it'll look like. This is what it should look like. A nice even gray ridge all the way around there. That's what you want to see. If you don't see that, then you may have something wrong with your valve seat, okay? You may have something wrong with your valve seat in here. Right there, in there. So that's lapping valves. Not too hard. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Don't be intimidated. I know all this stuff looks intimidating, but if you're watching this video, you've either got your engine already apart again and ready to put it back again, but just don't be intimidated by it. It's just a machine. You can't really hurt anything. But if you do, you just get an opportunity to fix something else. Be right back. As you can see, it doesn't take that long. You can do the whole starting the fire thing here if you want. I found the hardest part about this whole thing is keeping the suction cup attached to the valve itself. Now, I did buy a cheap set of these, so it's probably my fault, but I also found that if you lick that and then try to stick it on there, it wants to move around a little bit, and if you lick it again, you're going to get lapping compound in your mouth. It's not a good thing unless you like dirt in your mouth. It starts grinding between your teeth and everything. It's not good. It'll give you cold chills. So I think that one is about it Not ready. So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure we clean this off real good. You do not want that excess compound in the cylinder head. You want to make sure you get all that stuff out of there, off your fingers and everything, because it'll just keep grinding and grinding away. Now, as you can see, that valve also has a nice lapped surface there. And what this is doing is actually mating this surface to your seat surface. It kind of grinds them together to make sure you get a nice tight seal. And again, you want to make sure you get all this lapping compound out of there, because it will just continue to work. Probably get down inside your engine and on all of your mating surfaces and all that stuff. You don't want that. See how that came off there like that? You want to find a clean spot on your rag if you can. Get the rest of it out of there. Probably wouldn't hurt to just give a little shot of WD-40 there. Clean it all out. Okay, well that's the last of the four. I'm going to move on to putting the new springs in, and I'll show you something I learned on that, of course off of YouTube, so stand by. Okay, so we're going to put the vice grips on here and get our little journals ready here, our retainers, get those in there, and then you can take your vice grips off and you're all set. Now I'll just do that 3 more times. Hope y'all got that. Let's try this one. Try to show you one more time. Keep my big hand out of the way. Now these little things, they're tapered. You gotta be sure not to drop them like I just did. You want to make sure you got that socket under the valve, so when you're pushing down on here, it doesn't want to go down. We're going to take our cap again in the vice grips, and we're going to need a spring. So we're going to push. I'm going to push down and put that in there. Then we'll get the other one in and then let it up. And there you go. I hope you got that. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them and then we'll move on. Alright, so now we're going to put the heads back on. I'm only going to do one. You can imagine what the other side is, just basically the same. You take your head gasket and you align it with your alignment pins. See, I'm not putting it on right. There we go. Did you see how that went on? Just goes on the alignment pins. Make sure all your holes line up. And if you haven't done so at this point, you want to make sure that you keep your head bolts in alignment here with this piece of cardboard. I basically just did like Bruce Pender did and just poked some holes in it. Mark the orientation, you know, just like it should be. And we're going to get one of these, several of these started. We're going to put our locator pins in the holes like such. We're going to get a couple of these started by hand before we torque them down. This way they won't fall off. So we got our valves lapped in, we got our springs back on. We'll be putting the rest of the head back together here in a minute with the valve train and rocker arms and push rods and all that good stuff. So basically I've got that hand tight so it's not going to come off. Then I can go ahead and finish putting the bolts in the corresponding holes. Now this rocker support right here has to be loosened in order for it to spin out of your way. Because if you don't spin it out of your way, you can't get this head bolt out. You can't get your socket in there past this part here. It's offset, so it won't fit. All right, so I'm gonna get this all torqued down, and I'll be back. I went ahead and got you a better shot of this rocker support here. You have to loosen it or you can't get your socket in here to put and take out this head bolt here. So you have to loosen that to spin it out of your way. It's got a little tab on it that will lock it in place whenever I go to lock it back down. But now you just spin it out of the way and get it out of your way. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get these head bolts torqued down. 33.9. I had to round up to 34. So we'll see here. Just go ahead and snug them down before you torque them down using an alternating pattern. There's 5 bolts here. Now we'll start with this one by torquing it down. There's one. We'll alternate. 2. Crisscross. 3. Sorry. 4. 5. Now we can just go in a circle and check them again. Alright, there you go, gang. That one's all torqued down. I'll go ahead and do the other side just like this side, and I don't need to bore you with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this rocker support back up. It's got a little tab over here on the other side. Just don't go crazy with it. Just tighten it down pretty well. That's just the socket. So that's tight and that's tight. I'm going to do this other one here. So now we can put our rocker arm back in, along with our push rods. This rocker tightens up with a cam system here. I don't know if you can see it. It's not concentric, it's eccentric, so so it tightens up whenever you turn it in a certain direction. So you have to put this inside the arm first, like that. Put the arm in here. You gotta have about 12 hands. There you go. Get it in there. Okay, we're gonna leave it incredibly loose at this point so we can get that push rod in there. May have to take it out altogether. So the push rod has to go back and sit in the tappet. Gotta find it first. I can turn you off, I'll be right back. Okay. This one sits down at an angle like this. There it is. Okay. Bolt comes through. Theoretically. And then your nut goes on. And we'll do the other one, and then we'll get the valve lash set. I know my hand was right in your way, so I apologize, but there's the nut. That's the eccentric cam, and this is your tightening bolt here. The push rod goes back there. So we'll do the same thing on the lower one. If I get any part of my anatomy in your way, I apologize. Mainly my big head. If my big old head gets in your way, let me know. Okay. This one is at a different angle. Sits back there like that. We'll get this in here. Maybe. Spin that over a little bit. Stand by. Just spun the engine over a little bit so I can take off some of the pressure right there. That was not wanting to go in. Now we'll get these valves adjusted here real quick. They're supposed to be 4 thousandths. Both of them are. Let me grab my gauge. We'll go with 5. It's supposed to be between 4 and 6, so we'll go 5. And the way you do this is you want to put your feeler gauge in here, okay? And you want to loosen this 10 millimeter nut. And there's a 10 millimeter bolt that runs through here on that eccentric cam. So you turn it one way and it tightens it down, and you turn it the other way and it loosens it. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but you want to have that in there to where it's just got some little bit of drag on it like that. I mean, it could actually hold it in there, but you want a little bit of drag on it. Doesn't have to be absolutely precise, but you don't want it to be far out. Now I know I could talk about the whole top dead center, so on and so forth, but the way I do it is I spin the engine around when I can get a grip on that tapered shaft. I spin it around until one of them goes all the way down, and then the other one is loose. So we'll go ahead and adjust it. Doesn't take much. See, we got some drag right there. Beautiful, holding on. And then we'll take another 10 millimeter wrench and just tighten this other, the top nut down. Tighten it down pretty good. See, got just a little bit of drag in there. It's not too tight. Perfect. Now we'll go ahead and do the bottom side. I'm going to rotate it to where, keep going the same way. Not one to go. Let me find that bolt that goes in there. Hang on. Make life much easier. $17 millimeter bolt that goes up here where the flywheel goes on. Now we can spin it around all day long. So this one's closed, or opening, I'm sorry. Now this one is opening and this one's closed. So we'll adjust it right there. See, that's way out. See how far out that is? So we'll undo that and then turn this one pretty far. And we'll tighten the nut down. I know my arm's right in your way, sorry. Just a little bit of drag in there. So just a little bit of drag in there. So that's what you want. Can y'all see that drag in there without my arm being in the way? So these two are set. We'll just put the valve cover on and we'll do the same thing on the other side. You don't need to watch it twice. So I'll get the valve cover on and move on to the other side, and I'll bring you back whenever we make the next move. Thank you. I wanted to cover with you this tool that I picked up the other day. It's the electric or the cordless Ryobi ratchet. So this is my first use of it here. I like it so far. I like the way you could go slow, or you can go wide open. It's got two lights on it. Works off the same battery that the rest of my Ryobi tools have. So it's got some pretty good torque to it. Obviously not going to break any bolts, but that sure does make short work of it. So I'll come back and do that by hand. And if you like that kind of tool, it works great. You can actually spin the head too, different angles. 1/4 inch drive, nice handle, not real heavy either. It's almost perfectly balanced, really. Almost dead center there. So, but it works great. It's got a shutout. You can shut the handle out to where it doesn't, battery doesn't get go dead on you while it's in your toolbox if it gets bumped like that. Because it just takes a little bit for those lights to come on, just a little bump. So anyway, I'll finish tightening those up by hand, and I just thought you might like that. Let's see if I can find the model number. It doesn't have one on it. Let's see if it's under the battery here. It is a PRC01CN. So let me see if you can see that. It's probably not going to focus. But again, it's a PRC01CN. So the next step is just basically going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to put the exhaust back on, and then she'll be ready to go back on the mower. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but I'll bring you back whenever she's ready to get fired up. Until then, I'll see you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 4 hours later. I got her all back together, almost. Just got some trimmings to put around there, but the engine's all back together, and we're gonna see how she does. Now before, the symptom was, as soon as I fired it up, there was just smoke. I mean, it was smoking really bad. Now there may be some smoke now because of the, you know, the assembly lube and things of that nature. So we're gonna see if she's gonna fire up. Choke.